Hey London, what's up? I hope you guys are doing well. I was not on Ibiza, I wish I was, but it's the first time London weather beats Nice, so I'm happy about that. I only have 20 minutes to sort of be as helpful as possible, so I'll try to dive right in. And we're going to talk about retargeting. Essentially, we had a great panel just a second ago about the different insights, and we're here to really talk about a recap of what has worked so far with the advertisers that we work with, and essentially give you a quick walkthrough. So it all started when advertisers like Amazon, eBay, Uber, Wish, a lot of app advertisers starting asking themselves the question, are we doing good enough on our install campaigns? So they started digging a little bit on the data, and they started looking at what's our day one retention, what's our LTV, what's our predicted LTV, how well do we know these users, and how engaged they are, really digging in post-install metrics, and they realized that they were actually pretty bad in terms of any post-install metric whatsoever. This is a few years ago, right? So they were buying installs, and that was really disappointing for them. More than half of their users left after day one, and that really how app retargeting emerged from desktop to mobile. So they went from a shift, they shift their mind from an install acquisition, so paying for installs, to actually paying for users and people who actually spend time and money in the app. So they started thinking about re-engagement and how they can run retargeting campaigns. And it was all a trendy topic, but then at some point, they sort of stopped and to think what they actually need to run a retargeting campaign. So before we walk through sort of the 5 things that have worked really well for them, I just want to mention what you actually need to run a retargeting campaign. First of all, you need a tracking partner, an attribution partner. So we all know these companies, but essentially, Kachava, Adjust, Tune, AppsFlyer, Branch, AppsLR. And we don't want only attribution. We don't want just to know who drove the install, but we need to know from the tracking partner what users are doing specifically in the app. So you need to tag all of the events from the products that they viewed, the cart, what items they've added to the cart, how long ago they've been seen on the app, did they share with their friends. So any sort of success event that's happening in the app, that needs to go straight to the tracking partner. So once it's there, sort of partners like us can have access to that. So that's sort of step 1. Step 2 is, all right, you have a tracking partner, then you need deep linking. So for context, deep linking is, I'm sure most of you know, but if you don't know, deep linking is when you click on an ad, you want to make sure that that user is being redirected directly to the content that's relevant for him or her in the app. So if you're if you're a hotel tonight and you have an ad that pops on my phone, and you're showing me this great hotel, Marriott in London, and I want to book it, I click on the ad, you better make sure that I actually get in the app to that same hotel. Otherwise, the funnel, the conversion funnel is broken, and your performance is going to be pretty bad. So you have tracking, you have deep linking, and then you need kind of volume, right? So a lot of companies are thinking about retargeting because it's a trendy topic, but then if you only have a low amount of users, and we're going to get into metrics a little bit later, but if you have a low amount of users, you can't necessarily do a good job, and we're going to see why, but order of magnitude is a few 100,000 monthly actives. Again, order of magnitude, it depends on the ratio of daily actives to monthly actives. It depends on how often your users are coming, how many success events you have already so far, but just a ballpark to give you an idea. So if you have 5,000 monthly actives, obviously that's going to be very hard to do a good job there. So once you have all 3, then we can start talking about the things that actually worked, assuming you have, again, the 3 previous elements. So the first thing we're going to talk about is cohorts. What is a cohort? A cohort is a segment of users or a bucket of users that are put together based on similar actions. So if you have an app with an install, a sign up, add to cart, purchase, then let's consider that a funnel. And you want to put in the same bucket all the users that have, for example, installed but not signed up. That would be one cohort. Another cohort would be signed up in the past 30 days but haven't made an add to cart, or so haven't added to cart anything. Another cohort, added to cart but really never purchased. Then you can go deeper, purchasers, so people that have already purchased once but that haven't purchased in the past 30 days. So they've already made the effort of buying and giving you money, but they haven't really spent since then. So these cohorts are used to actually tailor creatives based on every person's messaging. So if I'm a user and I signed up, but I never browsed the catalog, the ad that I'm going to see definitely needs to be different than the person who already purchased and will probably push recommendations or push sort of similar products. So there's a few things you can do in terms of cohorting. Cohorting the segments of users, but also cohorting the ads. So cohorting the ads means a scenario-based creative. So think of the user sees the ad once, maybe he or she sees something about your product. But then the second time they see an ad, maybe they should see something different. Maybe you shouldn't spam them with the same ad over and over again. So that cohorting system, we're going to see in terms of metrics. I don't know if it's visible from here, but I'm going to walk you through a little bit of a few metrics. That's an example for a live campaign. We took 3 cohorts: the best cohort, the worst cohort, and then the middle ground, like the average cohort. That's just to give you an idea of how important and how different those cohorts can perform. So from the least effective cohort, so from the worst cohort to the best cohort, there's a difference of 20x in terms of ROI. The average deal size has 3x'd from one cohort to the other. Click to purchase rate has increased by 11 times. So the least performing cohort to the best performing cohort, the difference is just huge. And if we look at average cohort, it's still, ROI is 2.5 times higher. Click to purchase 2.5 times higher as well. So we see that the cohorting that you choose is actually extremely important. So try to, I guess, avoid falling in that trap of defining 3 cohorts that are pretty standard and then hoping that it's going to work out. Here, what you need to do is actually work through the cohorts, optimize them, reduce. For example, if you have a very large cohort, like people who installed the app and didn't sign up in the last 30 days, you want to split that up in 2 parts. People that installed the app in the past 15-30, and people that installed the app in the past 0-15. That gives you two cohorts, then you can optimize performance there, then you can subdivide them again, and that's really how you get to an optimized cohort strategy. So the second thing is, now you have cohorting in place. You sort of, a trendy word is DCO, but let's see how that applies to retargeting. It's essentially a way, DCO is dynamic creative optimization. It's essentially a way to personalize the ad for every single user based on a few things, based on outside parameters, like weather, like day of the week, like time of the day, or based on their actual usage of the app. So if I went on, let's take Hotel Tonight again, because I love the app. You go on Hotel Tonight, you look at a hotel, you clicked on the product, but you haven't purchased. We definitely want to push the same hotel that I've actually viewed. And if I've viewed a hotel Marriott in London, I don't want to be pushed an ad for a hotel in Rio, even though the hotel looks amazing. It doesn't necessarily apply to me. So this is what you would do. You would sort of analyze your funnel, see install a classic funnel, install, sign up, add to cart, purchase, and then repeat purchase. And based on where the user is in the funnel, the ad, in terms of performance, if you want to increase performance, the ad has to be personalized to every single funnel, or every single step of the funnel, I would say. The third thing that is extremely important, so there's dynamic creatives where we just talked about, it's personalized. But that doesn't mean the ad looks great. It's just personalized. Now the challenge is, how do we actually get users to actually see the ad, read the ad, enjoy the ad, and then go back to your app. So there's a super interesting paradox that's happening. If you're, I mean, at least that's what I've seen in the past sort of year or so. If you're talking to an advertiser today, or if you are an advertiser, and you're running both user acquisition campaigns and retargeting campaigns, chances are, I would say 99% chance, that that same person is running user acquisition campaigns with great creatives. It's interactive, it's high quality, they have a creative agency, and they really push in terms of the quality expected from the ad, reach media, playable, whatever that may be. And then you talk to the same person, and they're convinced that the rich media performs better, that the creative is elegant, that's why it performs. And then you talk to the same person about what they're running in terms of retargeting campaign, and then they're running either banners or static interstitials, and they're sort of completely dropped the ball there. So at first I started blaming the advertisers, right? I thought, you know, what's happening? And actually, after a lot of discussions, I realized that it's not the advertiser's fault, it's the partner's fault, right? So companies like ours, because a lot of companies are focused on back end when they're doing retargeting. We have, you know, a certain reach, we have optimizations, data, you know, algorithms in place. So a lot of people in retargeting space focused on back end optimization. And sort of everybody dropped the ball in terms of creative. And to give you a little bit of data, we did a funny test where we actually, using rich media playables for retargeting to really create an experience where the ad is interactive, personalized to the user. We've measured sort of static classic ad and then rich media playable. And here's the results. So, you know, I don't know if you guys are seeing here, but the 6x in terms of clicks, 11 times more transactions realized, a lot more, you know, even more transaction value. So this is an interesting one. The transaction value. So the average transaction value has increased. So the reason why that is because when you're running interactive creatives, you can show multiple products. So when the user actually sees an ad with 3 different products, the odds are that they might purchase more than, you know, if they just saw one product and thought, yes, I have to buy that. So cost per action was reduced and ROI was almost increased by 100%. So the sort of interactive creatives, please remember that if you're running them for user acquisition, you should also run them for retargeting. There's no mystery there. And yet nobody's really doing that. So the fourth thing is really, you know, you've got great creatives, they're personalized, they're based on the cohort that the user is based on, but now you need to find your users. So to find them, that means that you need, you know, partners that are able to find them at any time of the day, any sort of exchange, any location, any country in the world. So you need to find them wherever they are, and the KPI there would be the reach, I guess. So the more reach a partner has, the higher likelihood they have of finding your user. So we're talking about a metric called the hit rate. A hit rate is if you have 1 million users, what's the partner's hit rate? So how many users out of those 1 million users can that partner find? So the hit rate is something you want to think of. The example I'd like to give is, you know, if when you're ordering food delivery, when are you making your decision about what you're going to order for lunch? Is it at 6 a.m. when you wake up? Or is it, or I guess 9 a.m. for French people here? Is it, I'm French, so I'm allowed to do that. Is it at 9 a.m. when, you know, when you get to the office? Is it at 11 a.m. at your coffee break? Or is it at noon right before you leave for your lunch? So re-engagement needs to be there at all time to actually perform well for that lunch. So you need to make sure that you're able to reach the user whenever. And so the last thing is really, you know, the way to view this is what we like to call a triple win retargeting. So essentially, if you're doing all of that, then three things are happening. First of all, you're converting your install to an actual customer. So that's great for you. You're winning because you're driving more revenue. The second thing that happens is that you actually know that what's happening in the ad gets, the data gets brought back to you. So people that are interacting with your ads, you can measure different products that are working well, different colors, different prices. So that knowledge is being transmitted to you as well. So you win again because you're able to gain more knowledge about your users. And the third thing that happens is the user actually sees not an ad for another product or another spammy ad, but they actually see an offer for something specifically for them, something enjoyable as an experience, and something that they're actually going to click on and then purchase or engage in the app. So that's all for me. I'm trying to be respectful of your time. I'm happy to stay. I'm in the Addictive booth. If you have any questions, I'm happy to have a chat there. And I hope you enjoyed it, and definitely enjoy the rest of the conference.